right, Mr. Sam Kim, how you doing today? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Brandon. Thanks for having me here. Pretty excited to talk to
Happy
you.
to, yeah, happy to have you, man. Where are you based? Where are you from? I know you told me, but audience probably wants to know too.
Yeah, well, originally I'm from New York. Spent most of my life there. Ended up moving to LA back in 2009 following business school, where I started my kind of career as a tech entrepreneur. A couple of companies that I've started. This is, I guess, I guess it's like my fourth one that I really launched, and then recently moved to Las Vegas and loving every minute over here in Vegas. I don't know why it took me so long to find it.
Yeah, what do you like about Vegas so much? It's, one of my favorite places in the world, and I've spent so much time in Vegas, kind of grew up there.
Yeah, so despite the 115-degree temperatures, uh, I've been to Vegas many times throughout my career, but most of that time I spent it on the Strip and along in the Asian restaurants on Spring Mountain Road. But and so like in the summers, I didn't even realize it would get to 150 because I was indoors most of the time. But despite that, like I'm now kind of exploring outside of those two areas. Been spending some time in Henderson and Southern Highlands, and there's just great diversity there in terms of not just like ethnic diversity, but also just personalities and people's interests. It's far more broad, and what you find is that people are pretty open to conversation. They're interested in learning more about you and kind of explaining themselves. So it's more of a community than in that regard, very warm and friendly community compared to the big cities of New York and Los Angeles. At the same time, you've got excellent food, you've got tons of entertainment, and friends seem to always want to visit you in Las Vegas. It's an exciting place for everybody to come to. So I've been loving it so far, and I can't wait to really explore more and learn more.
Yeah, the only setback that I always hate is the heat. That dry heat is just crazy, especially this time of year.
Yeah,
Oh boy, yeah, 110, 115. I've seen it 120 before. Jeez,
right.
it can be a little difficult. But the
Yeah,
key is
yeah.
they try to get everyone to stay in the casinos and they just pump it full of oxygen, humidity, and keep the ACs
Well, it's
on.
working. I'm telling you, like you spend a lot more time indoors, including at the casinos, at this time of year.
Oh, absolutely. It's the only way to survive in Las Vegas at this point in time. Um, have you figured out the tech scene down there yet? I know there's a lot of crypto businesses starting to pop up. Vegas is getting a little bit more crypto friendly. Have you been able to explore any of that?
So I've mostly been meeting kind of like the investor class in
Hmm.
Vegas, and not so much into the builder community so far. And being in COVID at all, it's been a little bit difficult to get out there. But most of my kind of network has been in the Los Angeles, New York area, as well as kind of the global scene. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of when things open up a little bit more, so that we can actually engage more in person and really get out to the building community. Obviously, the investor class is important as well, but I'm really just kind of more focused on, I'm more focused on building product, getting developers using our product, and getting the word out there to the developer community.
Yeah, is the point to be integrated with the investor community, investors out there to raise more money, or what's the general
No, it
mindset
just
behind
hurt
that?
by chance. I mean, it just
Okay.
seems like the events that I've gone to there so far was more a community of token buyer, like it primarily, Ethereum and Bitcoin buyers, and so yeah, it's just more by chance.
Yeah, Vegas is a great place to meet people like that too. They have so many conferences and
Yeah.
expos and meetups and events that get set up in Vegas around crypto and blockchain and just tech in general. And they have CES there every single year.
Absolutely.
So that's a great place to be.
Yeah, no, I've been attending CES for some time. There's also a parallel kind of portion of CES that's focused on digital advertising, which
Hmm.
is sort of where my background is from.
How long you been going to CES? I've been going as long as I possibly have been able to ever since I started college. So I don't know, like 7, 8 years.
Okay, yeah, I've been got it probably going on and off for about 8 years now.
Yeah, I
Uh,
always it's my favorite expo to go to. Just there's so much there. I can never see it all either, but it's fun and inspiring to see what's going on and what's being created and innovated.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting so big that it's been hard to have those sideline meetings that you typically have. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that growth, right?
Yeah.
Over the past 8 years. Like it used to be that you can meet one another pretty fairly easily. Now it's nearly impossible. It takes, you're always late because it takes 30 minutes to find your meeting that day. And so a lot of, it's been incredibly great to see all of the like innovation and the development. But unfortunately, I feel like nowadays I spend more time kind of finding my kind of the person I'm supposed to meet as opposed to walking the show and seeing the booths. But the energy is like nothing else, right? I mean, everybody's there to strike the new year with, get going on the right foot, do some deals that's going to set them up for the year. It is really exciting, and the energy is unparalleled. I'm
Yeah.
sure you see that as well.
Have you ever thought about setting up a booth for Umbrella Network or anything like that to just get more people, noticing it and interested?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have some announcements coming up in the near future where it's going to be more relevant for us to be at kind of a CES and probably including CES as an event.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to have a presence there in the near future.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is we're going to get a press pass and try and set up a table or a booth where we can start doing interviews at CES. Ideally, that's what we'd love to do because there's so many people that go there.
Yeah.
It's just great exposure. So working on those details. Maybe there'll be a little BlockHash announcement in the future. Stay tuned.
All right. Well, see you over in Vegas.
Yeah, well, I'll see you in Vegas at some point. I go there
Absolutely.
often enough. Anyways, tell me more about Umbrella Network. I'm kind of curious. Like, what is what is it? What's the goal? What's the purpose behind it? Why'd you guys create it?
Yeah, so Umbrella Network is a community-owned layer two oracle. So to kind of break that down a little bit, like
Mhm.
traditionally oracles have worked in such that like large professional validator or node operators typically run the network, right? And 21 of the larger network operators. I got into blockchain and crypto specifically because I believe in the power of decentralization. And when I say decentralization, not just kind of large professional outfits, I want the community to manage because I think that's the best way to secure the network. Right? I believe having a diverse, broad, unaffiliated, unconnected node operators is the most secure way when you're operating on a proof of stake system or any system, to be honest. Prevents collusion, prevents kind of symbol attacks, etc. And so where we're different is that we're actually handing off the operations to our community as we speak. I think we've announced our first six validators. A handful of them are already live and running nodes, and we'll be continuously adding to this community pool. And I think that that's going to make us, give us a level of security that only you can only do by really decentralizing. And we're early in that process, but we're building towards full decentralization. So that's one. Second part is that we use a side chain that's built using a Merkle tree. A Merkle tree, basically, if you're not a technical person, is just a simple way for us to aggregate data and store that data efficiently on the blockchain. And so rather than taking one piece of data and writing that as a transaction on Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain or any other blockchain, what we do is we're aggregating today 1,200 pieces of data and updating that every single time we do a transaction on the blockchain. So we roll up those 1,200 pieces of data, and then we write a single hash that's a unique representation of that Merkle tree onto the blockchain. And so what it means for us is that there's no incremental cost of adding additional data feeds or price pairs. And so right now, like I said, we do 1,200 pieces of data. I believe the largest competitor is somewhere around 250 in their kind of comparable product. And our goal is really to get to about 10,000 by the end of this year. We're working with the community and of developers to understand what other data feeds they want on chain. Right now, it's heavily skewed to crypto assets and then the S&P 500, along with some commodities and synthetics. But we plan on onboarding far more crypto pairs. We want to be as diverse and representative of like Uniswap as an example, as possible, because we believe all crypto assets deserve to be supported by an oracle like us.
Yeah, which crypto pairs do you have already?
So basically, if you look at probably the top 700 or so crypto currencies, so rather than focusing on just the top, let's say 100 or 200, we're bringing it to full 700, and we'll be extending that soon. So if you're a project out there listening, and you need an oracle to support your price feed, let us know. We don't charge for it. We don't have any minimums in terms of your trading volume or how your token is used. We just believe like every token needs to be supported via an oracle.
Yeah, can you actually explain what an oracle is? Because every time I think of an oracle,
Yeah.
I think of the little floating ball from Halo that's always following around Master Chief and whatnot. Um, but it's always the thing that pops in my head. But like, when you guys say oracles, like in the space, like what does
Yeah.
that mean at a more surface level?
Yeah. So, D apps or smart contracts can't access data that's sitting off chain, right? So, traditionally, when you use a application on your phone or your computer, it's that application is able to access data via API or WebSocket or whatever. Um, Smart contracts can't do that. So they need an intermediary, a layer like us, to take data from a centralized source like an API. In the case of a price feed, it can be from an exchange like Binance or Huobi, or a price aggregator like a crypto compare, or even a CoinGecko, right? And we make that available to the applications, that to the smart contracts or DApps. But that process is, you know, this is subject to manipulation, right? There's a lot of risk in that process of getting that data from a centralized source via an API over to the blockchain. And so, as an example, you see oftentimes a project using a single data source for their price feed. And so, let's say they're looking at the price of DAI, and they're using, I don't know, let's say Coinbase Pro as a source of the price of DAI or DEX. A hacker or somebody can actually manipulate that price on that one single source and take advantage of that manipulated data to exploit the project. So if you are a lending protocol that's using the price of DAI, if a hacker is able to manipulate how that price of DAI is fed into your smart contract, they can take advantage of that and exploit it. And we've seen that in numerous flash loans that combines the flash loan with an oracle kind of manipulation or hack. That's an example of where that data is not being managed securely from the source to the smart contract, thereby resulting in millions of dollars of losses. We've seen that with Harvest Finance. We've seen that with Compound. We've seen that with a number of others. Oracles, a proper secure oracle will look at multiple data feeds, ensure that there's some integrity in those data feeds. Maybe we're dropping kind of the outliers, or we're taking a median or a mean. We're doing some processing or computation to ensure the security and the authenticity of that data when we push it into the smart contract. That's how we mitigate against things like flash loans, right? And so that's why I say, it's important that every crypto asset has Oracle support, right? Because just because you're a smaller project shouldn't mean that you and your community should be subject to or susceptible to attacks like that, right? You should be just as secure as a DAI, or a Compound or synthetics, right? Like, your token should be just as well supported. People should have just as much faith using your token as an asset or collateral, or whatever they want, whatever use case they come up with. And so that's why we believe it's important that our system, where we have no incremental cost of supporting additional data, that we actually get it out and support all the crypto assets out there.
Yeah, I was just going to actually touch on that and ask what the purpose of maintaining that integrity in these data feeds? Is it just for security, or does it also lend to like efficiency and stuff on chain as well, or are there other benefits?
Yeah, I think what it does is opens up kind of the use cases, right? Like the more security you have, and the more access to data you have, the more a developer can do, right? Today, as an example, like um, two areas where DeFi should be thriving, is things like indexes and options, right? They're huge markets that you have yet to really be mature in our industry, and a lot of that is is a data problem, right? So if you have an index of, let's say, 100 different crypto assets, imagine pulling all of that data and pushing supporting all of that as an oracle, right? That gets very expensive, especially if you have to update it with a high frequency. Same thing with options. Options, that pricing of options is largely a lack of data issue. And so, yes, I think it's one, supporting the crypto assets that are available today for standard operations or use cases like lending, but also kind of to expand the portfolio of things that people can do, right? Like make indexes available, because if you believe in efficient markets, right, you want to index, or maybe you want to do a copy trade where you want to copy a wallet that has done really well throughout the past few months or past year. You want to turn that into an index and be able to follow that and turn that into an asset. So those are kind of examples. I think there's a lot more. I'm really interested to see what developers come up with, right? Because when you put data, you make data available to developers, they come up with incredible solutions. And I think we're just getting started on that front.
What have you seen thus far from a developer perspective that they've created under this pretense a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've been pretty heavily. We have really focused on indexes and options as
Hmm.
something that we wanted to drive, and so we've got a couple of projects in each area that's we're working with, and those guys will launch when they launch, right? That's on their time scale. But those are two areas that I've actually really focused on, and we've actually been working on developing data specific for those two products. And I will have news about that as those projects announce. But we're really excited about that. And I think this is just kind of the first wave that we're going to see, because, like I said, man, those are two of the most largest markets in the centralized finance market, and we really haven't tapped those. We have a little bit, right? We're pretty early as a DeFi community, but there's way more potential there. And I think unlocking the data is going to be a big part of solving that problem.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on DeFi? It's been a very interesting, fast-growing little niche in blockchain. I guess I can't say little anymore, but in the last year and a half, my goodness, it's exploded quite a bit.
Yeah,
Do you have an
yeah.
opinion on where the space is right now and where it's going?
Yeah, Brent, I imagine you're like many of us, where you probably started with pretty basic use cases for DeFi. Now you're probably got a pretty complex portfolio, right? That's
I
what
was a traditional Uniswapper. That was my number one place to go,
that's how we all
swapping all those
started, right?
Ethereum tokens. That's where we all started.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's almost difficult to keep up with the pace of innovation and growth. And I find myself spending almost as much time keeping up with the pace of development as I do with my team. And so I, you know, I think but I think despite all this, we're still just getting started, right? If you could look at the TVLs and DeFi, it's still relatively small compared to the global financial market. And if you think about how long it's been, and we're continue on this trajectory, um, we're what, probably, in using American baseball parlance, are we even in the first inning? I mean, are we even finishing the first inning? So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Um, you combine that with some of the use cases that are going up that combines NFTs and DeFi. You know, what I've seen people using NFTs to represent indexes as an example. Those types of things, like, we're just getting started, and I can't. And I think in a year from now, the growth that we're going to be looking at is going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. I've had so many people on the podcast and I've had so many different conversations in the past, but the one that I always end up talking about or that people want to talk about is DeFi. and it's been like that for months. Like it's just DeFi, DeFi, DeFi. And I can just tell that's kind of the direction everything's going. Everyone's trying to build some, DeFi solution or application on one of
Sure.
these blockchains. They're, experimenting with what they can do. And it's one of those niches where every time I talk to someone, there's some new idea, new philosophy, new way to approach the space. And it's really hard to keep up with it. The innovation within DeFi is moving very, very rapidly,
Yeah.
for better or worse. But
And I think a lot of that is driven by kind of the improvements in the infrastructure
mhm,
that we provide to developers, right? So we started, a year ago, we were all on Ethereum, right? And then transacting with gas prices that were costing like 200 Gwei, right? And then even higher. Like those were extremely expensive. Now, yet people still built and people still use because there was a lot of value to unlock still. Now we're starting to provide them with Gen 2 blockchains and layer 2s like Arbitrum and Optimism. And we've got Solana coming on. BSC, is the first example. People have their opinions about BSC, but it was the first example of what you can do if the blockchains are a little bit faster and a lot cheaper, right? And so we saw
mhm.
an explosion there, and we see kind of the number of transactions there almost exceeding it, right? And so exceeding Ethereum even. Polygon coming on, right? And then obviously Cardano. If you look at the market right now, there's just tremendous enthusiasm for Cardano, and so
Oh my God, yeah,
yeah,
it's blown up quickly after that Alonso update. I haven't seen it spike like that. Just compared to the whole market, geez, it's moved
absolutely,
fast.
yeah. And then Solana's right behind them too, right? I mean,
Hmm.
Solana hit new highs, and it's a project that's got incredible promise and one that
Hmm.
we're excited to work with. So, I think if you see just like the improvements in scalability, the reduction in cost, and then with us, we're going to be bringing in far more data for developers. So you combine like scalability, lower cost, more data, and it's just going to lead to just an explosion of growth, innovation, and who knows what people are going to come up with. I mean, I often
Absolutely.
liken it to like the mobile period where you combined LTE, you were in the 3G world and all of a sudden they introduced LTE plus like Amazon Web Services. And all of a sudden you've got Uber, Yelp, and every other application you use on your phone today, right? Like, when I first got into mobile, it was the 3G time period. And like
Hmm.
just watching that growth, it kind of reminds me of where we are today, where we're laying that infrastructure pipeline and the data pipeline for developers. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing our equivalent of the Ubers and the Yelps.
Yeah, I am too. I think we're getting very, very close. The infrastructure is definitely a key aspect to that. Having a good foundation to build and innovate on top of. So we're getting close. I can feel it. It's getting exciting. Does the Umbrella Network have any, use cases or partnerships that you guys are excited about or that you've done recently? We kind of talked about, indexes and things like that and options and stuff, but like anything in particular that you guys are that you like?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've been focusing on is protecting the community. There's been a number of attacks recently, including ChainSwap, which affected us, and then obviously, we had the massive $600 million one. What was it? A week ago now. Um, and so, we've been focusing on a lot of partnerships, building around insurance, providing that to our community of token holders. We've been working on cross chain solutions for our token bridge between Ethereum, BSC, and other areas. And then just actually getting out there with our community of developers. We're getting involved in, now that we're on mainnet on BSC and we'll be on mainnet shortly on Ethereum. We're getting out to the hackathon community. We worked with Gitcoin um, back in July, following ETCC to sponsor the hackathon there, and we'll be sponsoring more. And so, yeah, I mean, those are the types of partnerships we're striving for. We're building the base, getting the developers out there.
Nice, nice. One more question, then we'll kind of start wrapping it up.
Sure.
What's your guys' roadmap look like? Finishing off the year, going into next year. Do you guys have any important milestones or updates or even partnerships or use cases as well? Kind of touched on. Anything that you want people to be, aware of that's coming up on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things is the goal to get to 10,000 data feeds, right? We want to be the
Hmm.
most comprehensive Oracle in the market, and so that's a big goalpost for us. And it could be we may overshoot it, but 10,000 is sort of our goal by the end of the year. Next is we'll be on Ethereum mainnet next month, so that is critically important for us to actually be live on Ethereum. It is and we went live on BSC for about a month, and that helped us to get kind of the community of validators on board in a lower cost environment before we push out to Ethereum. So that's a huge milestone for us. And then really kind of the multi-chain solution, right? We'll be working on Polygon. I'm so used to saying Matic, I have to bite my lip almost all the time.
Yeah.
But Polygon, Solana, Cardano. We'll be looking at the layer twos like Arbitrum and Optimism. So kind of supporting wherever the developer community are. That's kind of the longest part of our roadmap for this year, right? That's the most that takes up the most engineering time and resources, but but it's also critically important that we be wherever the developers are, and then also really just get to adoption, getting processing, upwards of 100,000 transactions, a month would be kind of the first goal, and then targeting that up towards to the millions in 2022. But those would be the milestones that we're setting focus on.
Do you guys have a community? Do you have a Telegram or a Discord where people can go and chat?
Yeah, we have both. You can find it on our website. Our website is umb.network. And from there, you can find links to our Telegram, our Twitter. We post actively on both. And of course, we have a Discord channel. And then finally, we post a lot of content on Medium as well. So follow us there for updates. And we have some really exciting news coming up in the next month or so. So stay tuned.
Looking forward to it.
All right,
Um,
Brandon.
yeah, Sam, thank you for taking the time. Really appreciate it to come on the podcast and explain what the Umbrella Network is. I'll do my best to redirect people as well to Discord and Telegram if they want to chat and get involved. And yeah, really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Brandon. Talk to you soon. See you in Vegas.
See you in Vegas.